Welcome to Frame by Frame, a series spotlighting the vibrant voices of filmmakers from New York City and around the globe. I am Khayal Kartal, founder and director of the New York Kurdish Film Festival. In today's episode, we are featuring three remarkable individuals whose work reflects resilience, memory, and cultural survival through cinema. Let me share with you a little about them. Halime Akturk is a Kurdish-Canadian filmmaker and producer from Bakur, north of Kurdistan. Her award-winning work explores immigration, displacement, gender, and human rights using storytelling to drive cross-cultural dialogue and social change. Halime is the director of the documentary called Ezda. Azad Azizyan is a Kurdish-American documentary filmmaker and editor from Rojhilat, east of Kurdistan. In his works, Azad pushes the formal boundaries of the documentary genre and experiments with alternative methods to make filmmaking more inclusive and collaborative. Azad is the director of Against Forgetting. Our special guest today is Mediha Ibrahim Al-Hamad. Mediha is a Yazidi activist and survivor from Sinjar, whose life is deeply connected to the stories we will explore today. She is one of the thousands of Yazidi women kidnapped and enslaved by ISIS during the 2014 Yazidi genocide. Mediha and her remarkable story are also featured in a film called Mediha. Welcome to Frame by Frame. Welcome everyone. It's good to see you here today with us on a program called Frame by Frame. I'm looking forward to learning more about your works today. Halime, I'd like to start with you. Your documentary called Ezda is truly an inspiring and full of resistance. Can you tell us a bit about the film?
Well, Ezda is story of survivor of Yazidi genocide, Besime. In 2014, Besime and her three children were kidnapped and enslaved by ISIS for 3 years. In 2017, she managed to escape, and later she was rescued by the Kurdish forces, and now she lives in Canada.
Truly remarkable. What drew you to shoot Ezda in the first place, and how did you approach telling such remarkable story with care and dignity?
That's a good question. Well, there were so many reasons for me to tell Besime's story. I'm a Kurdish filmmaker, and Besime is a Yazidi Kurdish woman, and I always look for stories of, women, gender, human rights, immigration. And I knew about the Yazidi genocide because I have a journalism background too. In 2014, I was actually in the border, Syrian-Turkish border, reporting on the war and the genocide. And at that time, I met so many Yazidi women, people, and refugees, and I reported on them. And later on, when in 2016 I moved to Canada, I met more Yazidi people, and then I knew that I had to tell that story. But this time, instead of actually making a news piece about it, I this time gave her a longer time and just in her own words tell her story and just give the stage to her.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting point about your documentary film, Ezda, is your style of using animation. Can you talk about a bit?
Yeah, that was the most challenging part to tell Besime's story because it's a really important story, and we didn't want. I say we because there was a very small, dedicated team behind this film, and we spent so much time with stylistic choice, how to tell her story. We came up with animation idea, and we work with this artist who draw everything with hands. So it's a hand-drawn animation, and you know, he was really collaborative, and because also, like I said, the team was really dedicated because they knew this was a really important story and that you know, it needed more time to work on, and everybody did their best. And I think that animation to show her life back in Iraq and in Syria and now in Canada, and mix of that with the animation worked the best.
Thank you, Halime. And now let's take a look at your documentary film, Ezda.
مير باري كرنا أما دراسيدا حاق جيبرن قستيل كدوان اشتلي درانين سوي جدوان دران بيدي جيبرن ومير درانين جن كرنيدا جن زير جناشي كرن داعش قهون داينن جهازة كل باما هاتش وزير بيرها بمشار جيكن ام ترسان ما زير خوها مداني اجي كيش قنتي ما قستيل كاوش تلي درنات كد قلت آمني وزير تايمنا قلت إذا أم جريان كوساكو ما فيهم كر أم برنا ما حد يسولاغ دا أمها أم شنو زارو أمير الكوچو دا هيلا أو زارو بقريا ما قلت وان زارو ما قوها چلو قف خده مير همو کشت قو مير همو کشتن کتاق میری ساقنين
Mediha, I would like to bring you into this conversation. As a Yazidi survivor and activist, can you tell us a bit about yourself and the documentary film also named Mediha?
My documentary, it's about my people's story and then my story, and then about genocide too, Yazidi genocide. I made this documentary because I was want to bring justice, of course, and then bring the story like to show the world.
Yes.
And hey, there's genocide is going on still. Like that's why I made it. Not I made it, just my director to help me, Hassan. And I was 14 years old when I was making the documentary. It's crazy, I know, young age. So yeah, and I was want to bring the story into world.
Mediha, you were only 10 years old when ISIS kidnapped you, and you stayed 4 years in enslavement. And tell us about you filming yourself, and how did you feel when you first hold the camera?
Yeah, I was 10 years old when I was captured by ISIS. But when I've becoming free, I come to camps, and then there was no therapy, and then there was no my trust friend to talk my story, my pain. And then when Hassan told me I want to make documentary, and then he gave me camera, and I talk with myself, and then by myself, and then with camera, and then I called camera. It's my best friend. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Mediha, what is your message?
I really love to, and then my message to whole world, to they make justice for my people, and then because I feel not good when I living in New York, safe place, safe city, and then I see my people, they are not safe, and then they are not happy. They don't know what they're gonna do tomorrow. I feel so bad for them. I feel like it's hurting me. It's bring my memory back, and then I hope people and the world support Yazidi people and Rojava people too in Syria. Yeah.
Thank you, Mediha, for opening up and trusting us with.
Thank you for letting me come and then told the story and then.
Now, let's take a look at a clip from your documentary film, also called Mediha.
وكم زحمة ديتين الدسيدة عشتها از ديمو ديم از الترسيدة عايشة از الترسم بس از تحاولين بس نترسم از بشمال نفسها خو لازمة أسهلها في مشاكلي ببينه تشتي بسري مهاتي أس نكارم بهتينكم خونا منا از بحريتها خو ببايمو لازمة أزكوي خو بدما برايد خو إجدالا داكو بابد خو
Azad, welcome. You came all the way from California. Tell us about your documentary film, Against Forgetting. What is it about?
So Against Forgetting is a short hybrid documentary film about four native Kurds in the city of Diyarbakir in north of Kurdistan who each try to preserve Kurdish culture in their own way in the middle of a political turmoil that started in 2016 when the Turkish government sent its own trustees and removed elected officials, Kurdish elected officials or pro-Kurdish elected officials. In this situation, these characters try to preserve Kurdish culture through body, land, music, and food.
Oh, these are not soft acts of resistance. So I'm glad you captured that. I guess what I'm curious about, what is your take when political and physical survival at stake? What role culture plays?
So when we think about cultural survival, really, we are talking about physical survival at the same time. If you look at all those genocides and wars that has happened in the world, the first thing that usually oppressors do is to attack the oppressed by kind of telling that they don't have culture, they don't have a language, quote unquote, they are savages. So that really gives them permission to remove them also physically. You know, everything starts from culture. While we were making Against Forgetting, we were thinking about what has happened in all parts of Kurdistan and how Against Forgetting was this moment, this space for us to not only stop that propaganda that exists against us, but also reverse this process. By reversing this process, we were at the same time actually standing and resisting the physical removal or the war on Kurdistan, the genocide that is happening and has been happening in Kurdistan for a long time.
That brings a very important aspect, that how culture plays role in humanizing those subjects have otherwise no voice, right? That is very important point you brought it. I have a follow-up question about your documentary that you took your takeaway from a formal documentary shooting, but you added performance. So while we see the realities on the ground, you turned us into artistic and for people deeply connecting to the performance. Tell us about why you chose the method and how did you come up with that idea?
So yeah, you're right. I mean, looking at also 3 documentaries, really, I want to also focus on the formal elements. And now you talked about how in Ezda we have animations, how in Mediha we are some sort of having like a passing the camera to the participant, right? You are actually holding the camera now instead of you become the cinematographer of your film, right? In Against Forgetting, we kind of did this like we took this approach of like, when thinking about Kurds, maybe like several years ago, not many people knew anything about us.
Yes.
Like, so we were meeting these people in the middle of the streets when we were working on a film, when we were performing, and everyone's like, oh, who are Kurds, right? So what happens? We start to give them informations. And when also thinking about the history of documentary, that's usually what is happening. We are thinking about this expository, informational documentaries that are telling us this is what is happening. For me, it was different. For me, it was like we are indigenous and we are experiencing the world in a very, very specific way. So how can I talk to my audience in this way and kind of let them like open this door, and how my film becomes a portal for my audience to enter my world and feel what I feel what my participant, what my community feels. So performances really helped me in that way. I was like, it was first of all, it was really a collaborative thing. So you know what, we were like working with all these people, curating all those performances. The participants were part of it. Everyone was like bringing something into it. So it became like this space for us to feel, and also at the same time to let the audience sympathize with us, empathize with us, feel with us, rather than just telling them, yes, Kurds are this, we haven't had like, yeah, for sure, that's important. But also for us was like, okay, you know what, let's just take a moment together and like go through all those feelings that we have as the oppressed, stateless Kurds.
That's truly remarkable how you switched a documentary being simply a resource for dry fact, but really adding the heart and opening the heart. Now, let's take a look at a clip from your film, Against Forgetting.
دنگبیجیا کرده هر تشتی تینه زمان. ام بویژن دلداری تینه زمان، شر تینه زمان، ناکوکی خراب تینه زمان، بویری کو و سروی ولاتی هاتنا قوماندن وی تینه زمان. اف کسی میکو آبتنا زندان دا خانه قاندنه به دار بکنه سروی تینه زمان. شر گماری کو دنوا کرده در خستن اوی تینه زمان. یعنی دنگبیجی به تک سر ناوی دنگبیجی که تنی کلامه که تنی نامینه. مرف گاوا بکه نوا دیروکاوی لیور بفکره مروان تشتا حمید مینه. نها امی هرنا جم ککی حوالی هیجا مهی جوان حوالی آمد ام دخوازن حوالی مهی دنگبیجی جوان و هاد نافمدا هری هتم هبن و ام بوان سر بلند بن تمیتم گاوا کو امان دبینن جبروی هاوی از خیر هات ناوید کم ادویم تو خیر هاتی سران سر شاوارا هاتی تو اج مرا چو بیج دیوانا مرا چو بیجی کرم کبرایی بیجا.
Thank you, Azad, Mediha, and Halime for sharing your work and experiences. Before we continue, I would like to briefly introduce the New York Kurdish Film Festival. Now in its 10th edition, the New York Kurdish Film Festival brings together filmmakers and audiences from around the globe, celebrating Kurdish storytelling across borders and generations. Founded in 2017, the festival was created as a home for Kurdish cinema. Born not as a genre, but as a necessity. In the face of silenced voices and fractured histories, Kurdish filmmakers have turned to cinema to remember, to resist, and to endure. One of the world's oldest cultures, the Kurdish people carries stories shaped by resilience and survival. the New York Kurdish Film Festival exists to hold space for those stories. So they are seen, shared, and carried forward into the future. Now I'd like to open this up to all of you. Mediha, I want to start with you. Your documentary film, Mediha, was our opening night film in our 10th edition 2025. How did you feel when you come to the film festival at the village of Angelica?
I never saw like the Kurdish people and then like my language people. They speak my language, like Kurdish. And when I saw like people hugging me, giving me their number, Instagram, whatever, yeah. So
You became a celebrity.
no, I don't care about celebrity because I always say justice is much important for like famous and then celebrity.
It was a true pleasure having you, Mediha.
Thank you.
Halime, what was the distinct quality in NYKFF?
There were so many things that I can talk about right now. We had the North America premiere of our film Ezda here at New York Kurdish Film Festival. At the same time, it was actually in Berlin Kurdish Film Festival. But
I remember that.
yeah, and we got the news from New York and Berlin around the same time, and we're like, we are going to New York. We want to have that experience because we heard so many good things about it. And we weren't wrong. We loved it. We loved every single second of our time in here in New York with Kurdish Film Festival because, you know, like you said, like Mediha said, it felt so much like a home far away from our homeland. Thank you.
You are truly shining. Azad, you've been with us for quite some time now in different roles as host, as panelist, and filmmakers. You know, there is no one here, so be honest and open. Tell us, what is this New York Kurdish Film Festival?
So yeah, as you said, Khayal, I think it was my 4th year this year working with New York Kurdish Film Festival. As you know, before it was, as you said, I was a panelist. I worked as a jury member. Then I attended with my film this year. One thing that is really important for Kurdish filmmakers, especially that New York Kurdish Film Festival does very well, is bringing all of us together from all parts of Kurdistan, from Europe, from the US. And to be honest, this is one of those rare places on this earth that you could see Kurds from all parts of Kurdistan coming together. And you know, we met in the Kurdish Film Festival in New York. We again met, like, you know, I met you in there. So it has been like really this space for us that not only brings us together, which we share our art, share our ideas, share our politics, but at the same time, think about future projects. You know, I have found collaborators in New York Kurdish Film Festival. I have found people that I'm like, you know, I'm going to work with them. I'm going to, you know, so this is really unique for a person like me living in the North, living in America, being a Kurdish American. So that to me is really the most important part that I'm really, really proud of to be a part of this organization.
Azad, what is next?
I am working on several projects currently. And I think, and by the way, I'm a film editor also, so I work on other people's projects at the same time. But me as a director, I am working on a short and a feature doc that, interestingly, both of them are about Kurdish music. I started with Against Forgetting that you're going to watch, and it's also about music. And yeah, since then I've been really fascinated with the importance of music in our life and how a stateless nation tells its history through music. So yes, both projects deal with music again.
For those who haven't been in NYKFF, you should come and join us. We always have live music. Live music is a must for us. It's not only telling history, but also energizing us. It makes us move forward. Having said that, Halima, what are you working on next?
Another women's story. Somebody has to tell these stories, and
Yes.
as a Kurdish woman, I am taking that responsibility. It's about Kurdish women, but also about women that are coming from war-torn countries and their experiences in immigration, immigrating to this new country. And as I said, I am always looking for these stories, and I just can't hold myself back to not have these gender side of it, these women side of the stories in it, in my work. And that's the project that I'm working on, and it's in post-production. Hopefully it will be done by the next edition, if not the one after, and it will be in the York Kurdish Film Festival, hopefully.
Can't wait to have you back. Mediha, you are now in New York. You are free to speak. Tell us about your plan for future for yourself and for Yazidi community.
Yes, of course, I'm free to talk and then to fight for justice and then fight for my people who've been through a lot. I want, in the future, hopefully, becoming a lawyer, human rights lawyer, because I want to talk about my story and my people's story, because I see many people forget Yazidi genocide, especially UNITIDE, UN, and then UNICEF, and then IOM. They left Iraq, and then they left camps in Kurdistan, and then I see nobody support Yazidi people.
Yeah.
It's gonna be not safe for my people.
Yes.
And then
it's not going to be safe for Yazidis, for Kurds,
Yes.
for Alawites.
Yes. For everyone.
No one.
Yeah, for everyone.
That's
yeah.
right. As much as I would love to continue this conversation, we've reached the end of our time. I want to sincerely thank Mediha, Azad, and Halime for sharing your artistry, your work, and your courage. In a world where Kurdish stories are still under threat, your films remind us that storytelling itself is an act of survival. Thank you, CUNY TV, for creating space for these voices. To learn more about Kurdish cinema, literature, and culture, please visit us, our website, and follow us on our social media. You can watch these films and many more on Frame by Frame through CUNY TV's channel and CUNY TV's app. Thank you for watching.
Support for this program is provided in part by the New York State Council on the Arts.